Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. Before moving on, please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I want to start off by giving a preview of what it was like to ride on a train in Jamaica, for those of you who have never experienced it. As a boy, I remember my aunt taking me to Kingston to visit. Those days it was the train. The Jamaica railway system was known as the Jamaica Railway Corporation. It came about in 1843. This was a few years after emancipation. If you had the opportunity to travel on a train, you would be entertained. For example, you had vendors selling grater cake, drops, total box drinks. You name it, the vendors had it. The vendors worked hard to make their living. Many times, a few conflicts would arise because you had too many vendors and few buyers. One thing was sure, you would be entertained, as I stated before. And then you had the pastors who boarded the train to preach the redemption story. Most pastors would be dressed in their three-piece suit, holding the Bible in one hand and a handkerchief in the other to wipe the sweat. Just remember, these trains had no air condition. If you were not lucky enough to get a window seat, your day would be cooked, of course. One pastor used the Titanic story to show the need for redemption. He hailed his message at the top of his voice and sang the song Nearer My God to Thee. And then he made his altar call and finally collected the offering and then moved on to the next coach. When all is said and done, the Jamaica train ride from Montego Bay to Kingston was the best. Every stop on the way brought you closer to Jamaican food and culture. For example, a stop at Balaclava in St. Elizabeth would let you purchase fish and bami. Of course, this would be full of Scotch bonnet peppers with onions. Wow to the individual who did not get his box drinks or her box drinks or bad juice. Those days were really good. However, there's a tragedy connected to the Jamaica Railway Corporation, and that was the Kendal Crash. I heard about the Kendal Crash and heard various stories. However, what influenced me to do this blog was that my dearest aunt had a clipping of a newspaper which I came across as I searched her collection of pictures. She must have valued this article and had some connections. The Kendal Crash took place on Sunday, September 1st, 1957 at approximately 11 p.m. This was a tragic event in Jamaica, and everyone around the world heard about it. The accident was caused by a failure in the braking system. It was suggested that the brakes may have been tampered with. After the investigation, many issues were revealed. On this dreadful day, the train consisted of 2 diesel engines and 12 wooden coaches. The reality is some of the coaches were really death traps. For example, in some of the coaches, you had one survivor. One example highlights one child whose parent died in the crash was the only survivor in that coach. Her case was known as a miracle. In other coaches, all the passengers survived. Hospitals in the region were filled to capacity with people who were injured or dead. While there was death everywhere, there was hope. For example, survivor Carvey stated she was unconscious after the accident and was placed with dead bodies that were in the process of being identified. She gained consciousness and started searching for her brother, who was already taken to the hospital. For years she was known as the Ghost. While many survivors tried to assist the injured passengers, some eyewitnesses stated that others robbed the dead, taking off rings and other valuables. One man who survived but was injured in the crash stated that someone tried to remove his watch from his hand. Sad to say, the practice continues today. In Jamaica, if a truck breaks down with chickens or so forth, you will see so many people rushing for these chickens or whatever has been thrown off these trucks without giving consideration to the thought that someone may have been hurt. And if you think for a moment that pickpocketing is a recent occupation, think again. Reports are that 4 pickpockets were found with wallets and several items of those who died. The reality is, pickpockets were passengers on the train with an objective, of course. The impact of the crash was felt throughout Jamaica and worldwide, of course. World leaders messaged in to give their condolences. Some of the victims who died were buried in unmarked graves in Kendall. Some of them were so badly crushed that they were unrecognizable. And when Jamaicans talk about Kendal Crash, they always talk about the ghost sightings. On reflection, today's survivors and descendants tell the story of an awful night. I recently saw someone who had a proof of concept for a movie on Kendal Crash. I think it's really a good idea, and this could be used to chronicle the event and the encounters. I look forward to watching this film when it's released. Thanks for listening. Remember to like and share my content. I will always try to give you content on history, education, inclusion, and of course, the aim is to share. Thanks again.